You are looking at the UI for the classic football manager game called Championship Manager 97-98, but if I click a few buttons and you look a bit closer and you're into current football affairs, you can see that these are actually real life players playing in this age. And if I just go up here, minimizes the screen, you can actually see I'm in my browser because this is a web app built on Nordcraft. And let me tell you how. Let's go. Hi, I'm Kasper, web designer for Nordcraft, and I'm creating this replica of Championship Manager 97-98 because I was looking into a new way of sort of browsing current football stats, live scores and standings and so on. And I thought to myself, what better way of actually using the good old clunky UI of Championship Manager, the game who actually got me into web development in the first place. And I actually wrote an article about just this and actually how revisiting your childhood games and UIs and so on actually can bring back joy and actually improve your craftsmanship. There will be a link to a video somewhere around here, I guess. But before we actually dig into how I made this app, let me just show you how the game looked back then. Now this is the real deal, the actual app from back in the day, and just look at those weird fonts, those pixelated fonts, those bright colors and those clunky buttons. Oh man, do I love it. But yeah, these are the screens I'm trying to replicate in my web app version of Championship Manager. I'm trying to stay as close as possible to the overall look and feel, the styling itself, and of course the screens. So before we go into the actual app in Nordcraft, let's briefly talk about structure. To make my application as easy as possible to manage and build, I've decided to serve certain features on certain pages. So for instance, this done button over here leads me to a URL, a /news page. And on this page inside Nordcraft, I'm handling everything regarding this news feature. So the app layout and structure, styling and data fetching is all tied to this one page inside Nordcraft. If I just skip through all these latest news, I can just showcase you another example, the squad details page right here. Again, /squad details. Everything regarding displaying these teams are done on a separate page with separate app fetching, logic, styling, and so on. And speaking of the data, before we dig into the Nordcraft project, let me briefly talk about the SportsDB, the open source database I'm using to actually display team names and player names and so on in my application. Let's give it a quick look. If you navigate to the sportsdb.com, I'll put the link down below, you can have a look at this lovely open and crowdsourced sports database. It's managed by the community. Quite a few people are updating various players, teams, stadiums and so on a daily basis. I can just go in here. Since I'm part of the community, I can also edit and update players on my own. I'll just browse any given football player. Messi, for instance, I can go in here, I can click edit player, and if I feel like contributing or updating with a recent fact or stat for Messi in this case, I can just go in here and click any field and it's updated more or less live for me to access and see in my application and for everyone else to see in their application. It's a shared database, you might say. I'm using this API documentation page quite a bit where I can see which sort of API calls to make in order to get data inside my application. I'm using the V2 one. They have two different versions of their API. As I recall, the V2 one is more modern and also the paid version. I mostly look under here, V2 lookup. Lookup is just where you go to see the data from the database basically. But go in here, have a look and look at which URLs to use when you're fetching certain data. I would highly recommend having a look at the SportsDB. I'm not affiliated in any way with the SportsDB. I just happen to quite like this product. It's driven by the community and it might not be the fastest or most up-to-date database, but again, you are taking part of it. You are helping shape the database itself. I think that's pretty cool. They have a Discord as well. I will put a link to their Discord down below in the description. Let's have a look at the actual app inside Nordcraft. And as you can see, my application is displayed in the center, but let me briefly show you the other pages, the news page, the players page where I list all of the players for a given team, the player profile page where I list some stats and attributes for a given player, and the last one down here, the teams page where I list all of the teams available inside my application. And I'm doing that by utilizing this the SportsDB. I'm calling their API, and I'm doing it quite a few times. I'm calling it each time for each of the leagues which I have chosen to display. So in this case, the Danish Superliga. Let me open that API call right here. I'm fetching data from the SportsDB API v2, and I'm listing all of the teams for this particular ID right here, corresponding to the Danish Superliga. Yeah, let's have a look into components and how I use them across the different pages. Let me show you a fairly nice component I have created. This one up here, the header component, a custom component, which I use quite a few places in my application. It's used right here on the home screen, but it's also displayed in the very top on the news page, the players page, and so on. And as you can see, it sort of adapts to its surrounding, you might say, to its context. Right here, it's white with a blue text on top, but on the news page, for instance, it's green with yellow text on top. How come that's possible? Well, it's utilizing these attributes over here. We have the background color, the text color, and the title. And these can be set dynamically. So if I go into, for instance, the player page right here, the players page, you can see I'm actually getting the color, the team colors for Arsenal in this case, from my API, and the attributes allows me to sort of tie the given API call for the team color. Right here it's called string color 1. I'm able to tie this to the attribute which displays the background color on this component. Super nice, and a nice way to structure and organize your application utilizing these sort of reusable components. Let's have a brief look at one of the other ones, the big gray button down here. It's more basic, just a text attribute. And if we go to the front page, you can see I have, that was not the front page, home right here. I have this sort of a big links button right here, which also takes in a link and a text attribute. But use components as much as possible because it's a nice way of structuring your app, but also for other people to get a better overview of what's actually going on, and of course also for performance. This was a super fast overview of the reason behind me building this project and the overall app structure, and a bit of how I'm creating my app inside Nordcraft. I will be digging deeper into the specifics of the applications in future videos. I plan on making quite a few actually on this project. Speaking of this project, you are actually able to not take part of it just of yet, but you can actually clone this project. It's all open source, so if you click the link down below, you're actually able to create your very own version of my Championship Manager 9798 project and make it your own. I'm looking forward to hear from you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.